From the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C.
Members of Congress, distinguished guests, welcome to the opening of the Library of Congress' newest exhibit, the Civil Rights Act of 1964, a long struggle for freedom. A special thanks to you, Newman's Own Foundation, for your generous grant which made this exhibition possible, and to History for their invaluable audiovisual contributions and educational outreach support. I'd also like to especially acknowledge and thank our curators, staff, former staff, interpretive programs office, scholarly advisors, all of whom put in a great amount of hard work and dedication, and many of whom are here with us tonight. This year-long exhibition will be available online as well as on site to visitors, researchers, and the American public to discover, utilize, and review both the personal and the legal and legislative struggles and victories that led to the passage of this important act. This exhibit will be renewed with new materials from the library's collections in the early spring, and it will continue to shed light on the prominent leaders and the private citizens who participated in the centuries-long campaign for equality. I have the distinct honor to announce to you this evening that the Library of Congress will be the new home of the Rosa Parks collection, made possible through a generous long-term loan from the Howard G. Buffett Foundation. Our hope at the library is to incorporate items from her collection into this exhibit and make it accessible to the American people as it joins one of the largest collections anywhere of African American materials, more than 11 million of them here in the Congress's library. We're honored especially tonight to have with us Linda Johnson Robb and to reflect on the poignant final words of President Johnson at the signing ceremony for this act 50 years ago. So I'm quoting her father, President Johnson, quote, and with this I will end, although it's hard to end anything that's begun so beautiful by the chorus that we just heard as well. But the closing words of President Johnson as he signed that important act, and I quote, "Let us close the springs of racial poison. Let us pray for wise and understanding hearts. Let us lay aside irrelevant differences and make our nation whole. Let us hasten that day when our unmeasured strength and our unbounded spirit will be free to do the great works ordained for this nation by the just and wise God, who is the Father of us all."
Thank you very much, and good evening. It is my honor to greet you on behalf of the members of the Congressional Black Caucus, including our own Representative John Lewis. Would the members of the Black Caucus who are here please stand? When I took on this chairmanship of the Black Caucus, I didn't realize that I would be chaired during so many significant milestones in our nation's history. It has certainly kept me busy. Within the past 2 years, we've celebrated the 50th anniversary of the March on Washington, the 50th anniversary of the War on Poverty, and of course, the 50th anniversary of the signing of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Next year, of course, we will celebrate the 50th anniversary of the Voting Rights Act of 1965. And though these celebrations acknowledge the great strides made toward a more just and equitable society, we've also witnessed a number of stark reminders of how much work is left to do. The title of this exhibit is quite appropriate. Indeed, there is a long struggle to freedom. It is far from over. American society continues to change and to evolve, and as this exhibit shows, It is up to the good people of our nation to keep it moving in the right direction. We cannot and must not rest on our laurels, leaving the fate of our nation, shaped by the hands of the people we have seen and heard from in these photos and recordings, up to chance. As I shared with the audience who gathered in the Capitol Rotunda to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the Civil Rights Act this summer, this legislation established equal opportunity under the law for every American. Together, we must do everything we can to protect it. Knowing and remembering our history, which this exhibit helps us to do, is an important first step. I'd like to thank the Library of Congress for its work in bringing this exhibit together. Thank the Newman's Own Foundation for its commitment to empowering individuals through education and exhibits such as the one that we are here to celebrate today. I would also like to especially thank my colleagues in the Congressional Black Caucus, my friend John Larson, for the work they do every day to honor the spirit of the Civil Rights Movement and the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Thank you all for joining us this evening, and I hope you enjoy the rest of tonight's program.
Thank you, and good evening. Good evening. I'm honored to be here this evening with my colleagues, and of course, always to be honored to be here in the presence of Jim Billington. What a national treasure he is, and I too want to add my thanks to the library staff, Steve Kelly, Liz Morrison, David Taylor. I'm especially honored this evening to be here to acknowledge the generous support of a dear friend, Bob Forrester. Bob, who heads up Newman's Own Foundation, and Dr. Libby O'Connell with the History Channel have been very important in terms of putting this remarkable exhibit together. As Marcia pointed out, being here with our colleagues, so many of whom have played a primary role in the shaping of history, who experienced and breathe life every day into the significance and ongoing movement that was generated during the 60s. I like to say of Dr. Billington that he is the perfect cross between Gandalf from the Lord of Rings and Dumbledore from Harry Potter series. He is a wise sage with incredible powers, except these are not a matter of fiction, they are real. And he has used the great power to educate through the use of this fortress of knowledge to educate the American people. It is why this unbelievable building, the most unique of its kind in this country, is something this nation should always be so terribly proud of. I was delighted when I was able to bring Bob Forrester, a lover of books and history, together with Dr. Billington. It didn't take much. Bob Forrester immediately, himself having grown up on the hard streets of Hartford, and as a tough guy and a captain and served in Vietnam, who experienced firsthand the crucible that we all have come to know as the 60s, who during that time forged a relationship with Paul Newman as well. He went on to become such an extraordinary and successful businessman, but always a partner with Paul Newman, and shared that vision about a greater country, a calling to something larger than ourselves. And that epitomizes what Newman's Own Foundation is about and what Bob Forrester is about. What's remarkable, not only about their generosity and their commitment here, but his notion, and Marcia said it best, but Bob has been here to talk to members of the Congressional Black Caucus and with Jim Clyburn and John Lewis and John Conyers and Charlie Rangel, and to be here with so many of them and also say, listen, this is something that's got to live beyond an exhibit for a year. This just can't be some static exhibit. We've got to breathe life into this across our great universities. And he immediately collaborated with Walt Harrison from the University of Harvard, who's here this evening. And I want you to give him a round of applause. I always say when he's here, the greatest president in the history of the state of Connecticut. And, but for what they're doing in the ongoing work, mid-month in September, we're going to be kicking off that initiative up at the University in Hartford, something that we hope all members of Congress, not only the members of the Congressional Black Caucus, take back to their universities and talk about empowering change. That's what this is all about. We're so humbled, I am, this evening to be here with so many incredible and remarkable Americans who have meant so much to our history. God bless you. God bless America.
Thank you. My good friend Paul Newman once told me, he said, Forrester, here's a bit of advice. Never follow a children's act on stage. Never follow John Larson to speak. This is very clear. That was a very wonderful, powerful, leaving me the foundation aside. It's just an enormous privilege for me to be here. And we're here wherever we go where we're giving money away. It's a great privilege in America to be able to do what we do. We come to thank those people who are actually using the money. We're simply part of that fuel that makes things go. This is such an important evening. The only regret I have is my very dear friend Paul Newman, person whose legacy I am now the steward of, is not here. I'm sure there are many people here who could also say Paul was a close friend of theirs. This would have been a special, special moment for Paul. Just being in this great Library of Congress, which I never thank John Larson enough for introducing me to it. I can't believe it. I had to reach my age before I came in here and really understood what was here, the collections, what it represents, the people, the dedication, the symbolism of this library of preserving and sharing history and knowledge. It speaks to the highest levels, the highest hopes of our species as human beings. It's gone on for so many, many, many years. So this was very important to Paul Newman. He was a great reader. I'm a great reader. I'm a slow reader, but a great reader. I read a lot. And history and the lessons that are learned. And to paraphrase Cicero, probably torture Cicero here a bit, that for Paul, if he were standing here, I think he would agree that a world without libraries would be a world without a soul. And I truly believe that. And I just can't say enough for Jim, but the people that Jim represents here in America and throughout the world that I've been honored to be introduced to by Jim, who are also in this business of preserving history, knowledge, sharing the learnings. As many of you know, Paul was marched in August of 1963 in the Jobs and Freedom. If you ask Paul why he would do something like that, he would just give you a curious look and say, well, it's just the right thing to do. He was a great believer, as he referred to it. Other people may use different words, but luck, the role luck of circumstance plays in anybody's life. And he would always start by saying, in my life, being born in America and the opportunities that afforded me, or the fact that I looked right for the movies. And he would immediately point out he had nothing to do with being born here or how he looked. That had something to do with somebody else. So to empower, to help people whose circumstances have created barriers in front of them, whether they're barriers of physical barriers or they're barriers of not having access to safe waters, or they're barriers where society itself has prevented people to realize their potential, is what we want to do. We don't want to say what you do with that potential. We're not a political organization. We just have a profound belief in people and a profound belief in each of us here and together to change the world. We're very hopeful people in the foundation. I can't think of any better example of what we're talking about than in America's civil rights movement. As John Larson knows, in 1993, Nelson Mandela came to meet with Ted Sorensen, a name many of you know, and Ted got a hold of me, and we met with Mr. Mandela, and he said, I would like you folks to put together here in the United States an organization to bring a civil rights movement and a voter rights movement to South Africa, because America is the only place that's truly had this kind of a movement on a civil basis. And then he also said, and when you're finished, please go home, which was also very important to say to us. And I was so proud. There was no good reason why we should not have had to have a Civil Rights Act, but we did have to have it. And I was so proud about how people who are here in this room made that happen. I wasn't there, and so I'm very grateful on behalf of all of Newman's Own Foundation, many of our people sitting here, to just say thank you all for what you do in your lives. Thank you very much.
Good evening. Thank you to our congressmen and women who are here tonight, to members of the Madison Council, and to the Librarian of Congress, Dr. Jim Billington. I also just want to take a minute to salute the work of Newman's Own. They've been wonderful partners for us here, and Bob Forrester. Thank you so much for everything that you guys do. It's an honor to be here on behalf of History Channel and A&E Networks at the opening of this important exhibition. I'd like to recognize Jerry Otremba for roping us in. We'll never look back, and it was great. Thank you. I'd also like to salute the exhibitions team for their painstaking work and collegiality. History Channel's two short films, which you'll see upstairs. One is an overview of the civil rights era, narrated so well by Julian Bond. The second is a look at the impact of the American civil rights movement globally. And both of these films, I believe, provide succinct, accessible narratives of one of America's most inspirational stories. One of our goals is to engage younger audiences so that they recognize the paradigm shift that occurred in these tumultuous, righteously angry, and idealistic times. I want to acknowledge Allison Gus of True Ames Productions and Kirsten Young and Susan Leventhal from the History Channel for their efforts on these films. My colleague, Dr. Kim Gilmore, has worked closely with the Library of Congress and Leanne Potter and the educational team on developing top-notch outreach materials provided. And I think this is a very important part of this exhibition, that there's going to be an educational legacy. There'll be materials provided at no charge to schools. I know the ones in Connecticut are already equipped. To schools, libraries, after-school programs around the country. This is, you can pick one of these up. This is an idea for educators on the Civil Rights Act, and I think this is a really important and intrinsic part of the exhibit. These resources help bring alive the story and the spirit of the civil rights movement in the classroom and in after-school programs. The Library of Congress and History Channel together have made available online resources as well, and that means they're global. For as author Taylor Branch so aptly observed, the civil rights leaders are our modern founders who, like our founding fathers, confronted systems of hierarchy and subjugation, figured out ways to set up a new vision of citizenship, not only inspiring equality here in the United States, but arming people at the Berlin Wall, at the Gdansk shipyards, in Soweto, and in Tiananmen Square, with a magnificent hope and revolutionary ideology that all people are created equal, and we are all endowed with the inalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. To the Library of Congress, thank you for inviting History to help commemorate the 50th anniversary of the Civil Rights Act. Speaking personally and professionally, it's indeed been an honor. Thank you very much.
One of the greatest joys of my service in Congress has been serving this term as the chairman of the Joint Committee of the Library of Congress. I am humbled to be included in the launch of this exhibit. This past March, I had the great honor of serving as the Mississippi co-chair for the Congressional Civil Rights Pilgrimage, along with Congressman Benny Thompson, also of Mississippi. While visiting Jackson on that trip, I had the opportunity to stand in the driveway, in the carport of the home of Medgar Evers, and hear Mrs. Myrlie Evers describe that horrible evening. To have her describe and tell how the children, when they heard such a noise, were trained to drop to the floor and crawl to the bathroom and get in the bathtub for safety. It's a moment I'll never forget, the impact that it had on remembering what took place. This past July, just 2 months ago, I was privileged to be able to introduce the Medgar Wiley Evers Congressional Gold Medal Act, honoring Medgar Evers for his work on behalf of racial equality, which tragically led to his assassination, but was also a major catalyst in passage and enactment of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. It took dedicated, courageous men like Medgar Evers, James Farmer, and my esteemed colleague in Congress and one of my heroes, Congressman John Lewis, to change the course of American history. You know, being here and on a regular basis having the opportunity to visit with Dr. Billington and many of the gifted and experienced professionals at the Library of Congress, you see what an amazing place this is. And I'm honored to take part in this celebration because this exhibit draws from the library's collection, now numbering over 158 million items. The manuscripts, drawings, letters, legal briefs, posters, photographs, newspapers, oral histories, maps, movies, and sound recordings have been selected from the collection of the NAACP, the James Forman, Bayard Rustin, and A. Philip Randolph papers, the records of the Brotherhood of Sleeping Car Porters, the papers of the Leadership Conference on Civil Rights, among many others. Sustaining such collections is a national imperative so that the future generations may use, learn, and be inspired by them. The legislative history chronicling the months of congressional debate reminds us of the efforts of private citizens, organizations, two presidents, and House and Senate leadership, Republicans and Democrats, to pass the Civil Rights Act of 1964. As Americans, we understand that our nation was built on the idea that all citizens shall have a right to be free. This ennobling exhibit honors heroes who helped our country overcome extraordinary challenges to make those very freedoms a reality. Thank you, and God bless you.
Dr. Billington, my beloved brothers and sisters, long struggle for freedom. It's an ongoing struggle. When you have an opportunity to come and walk, as I did tonight, through this amazing exhibit, you will be moved. You will be touched by the spirit of history. I didn't want to prepare anything. I just wanted to see. I wanted to be able to almost touch, to feel. The struggle is an ongoing struggle. But tonight, to come here, and I want to thank each and every one of you for your involvement, for your participation. To see myself, when I had all of my hair and a few pounds lighter, going on the Freedom Ride, or to be
speaking at the March on Washington, and Julian Bond to see a corrected copy of my speech. And for the first time tonight, on the History Channel film footage, I saw myself standing there with others. Made me want to cry. To understand the progress that we have made as a nation and as a people. When President Lyndon Johnson signed the Civil Rights Act of 1964 in so many parts of America, people couldn't be seated together in a restaurant or stay in the same hotel or ride in the same taxi cab. This act changed America forever. Our country is a better country, and we are a better people. So those of you who may say it, and tonight you cannot walk through here and say it, that nothing has changed, I feel like saying, come and walk in my shoes. Our country is a better country, and we are a better people. I want to thank each and every one of you for what you did. It is my hope and my prayer that teachers, students, and just everyday citizens would come and visit, watch it online, to be inspired, that you too, that we all working and building together can build what Dr. King called a beloved community and create what I call one house. We all live in the same house. And it doesn't matter whether we're black or white, Latino, Asian American, or Native American, whether we're straight or gay. We all are brothers and sisters. If we can get it right here in America, maybe what we do and what we say can emerge as a model for the rest of the world. This ongoing struggle, a lone struggle to redeem the soul of America. We can do it, and we must do it. Thank you very much.
When you're down and out, when you're on the street, my Lord, when evening falls so hard, I will comfort you. I'll take
sail on, silver girl, sail on by. See how they shine. Need a friend. Like a breeze over troubled water, I will ease your mind. Like a breeze over troubled water, I will ease your breeze on troubled water. When you're down, I will carry you like a breeze on troubled water. I will lay me down, lay me
This has been a presentation of the Library of Congress. Visit us at loc.gov.